Once again, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our press conference. Today we're speaking about what's happening in the media infrastructure in Belarus right now and what the independent media are facing, the mass repressions against independent media are taking place, and the representatives of the media club are still behind the bars, and the operator, Peter Slutsky, and 15 representatives of the oldest TUT.BY portal are in jail. Last week, the authorities put in jail their mass seizures, searches and detentions taking place. One more independent media is smashed, called Nasha Niva. Editor-in-chief Igor Martinovich was battered while detention, and today we found out about news searches. My name is Natalia Gantievska. I represent the press club, and I'm moderating this press conference. I'll introduce our speakers. Oleg Poddeyev, the deputy chair of the Belarusian Association of Journalists. Pavel Low, editor-in-chief of Euroradio. Natalia Rovdel, the publisher of Nasha Niva. Alexandra Pushkina, the manager of Zerkalo.io, the project of the TUT.BY team. Irina Novik, the editor of Brodno Life, representative of Association of Publishers of the Regional Press, the expert of the project Media IQ. We'll have a short, brief speeches, and then we'll have a session of questions and answers. Please, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat column. During the speech, please mute your microphones to avoid any background noise. I'm giving the floor to Oleg Poddeyev, the deputy chair of the Belarusian Association of Journalists. Oleg, please, the floor is given to you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm happy to welcome you at this press conference. Unfortunately, so the purpose is not very pleasing, and if taking a look at the course of events in the media sector taking place recently, so the Belarusian Association of Journalists is facing the hardest year. This is the hardest period throughout the whole history of the Belarusian media sector. The way the events are taking place, they show that the authorities of Belarus are trying to suppress and silence the independent media in Belarus, and the numbers that are being recorded by the Association of Journalists are high. There is another wave covering the Belarusian media sector. The wave of repression is taking place in the regions in Minsk, and it took place in Minsk last week. If we take a look at the course of events, we can see that the mass propaganda authorities, they spread the word about some clearances of the terrorist group and terrorist groups, and in a few days we see the reaction of the authorities, who they consider the terrorist groups. And on the 8th and on the 9th of July, there were 37 or 38 searches, 7 detentions, and 4 people are still behind the bars. As the host Natalia mentioned, Maximovich, Andrei, and Olga Rahovich, the employees of Nasha Niva, they're still behind the bars, in jail. And that's good that Vitaly Skrill, Igor Kazmirchak were released. 38 searches took place on the territory of the whole Belarus. Out of 38, 6 searches took place in Minsk, 6 in the Vitebsk region, 13 took place in the Brest region, Brest. 2 searches took place in the Mogilov Oblast, both in the city of Bobruisk, and also in Homel. The searches touched at least 10 publishers: Nasha Niva, Online by the Brest newspaper, Int Express, Inform Kagulka, the Virtual Brest, Orsa.yu, and Silne Novosti Media. Such actions resulted in the conditions of and consequences of independent media that they are deteriorating dramatically. If we judge the situation throughout the whole year, the numbers are startling. As of today, currently we are aware that there are 29 media representatives in jail. 2 of them were charged, and the trial was finished. 87 detentions have been recorded and 107 searches. 6 cases of the use of force and abuse of power. 21 times journalists faced administrative charges, and 38 times they were fined. The total amount of fines is over 20,000 euros currently. The problem is that almost all the searches, I'll remind you,
изъятием оборудования, телефонов, смартфонов, компьютеров, ноутбуков, что значительно усложняет и делает невозможным профессиональных обязанностей. Хочется отметить,
I would like to point out that under such conditions, the journalists of independent media are showing professionalism and virtually self-commitment, and almost all the publishers and all the newspapers, they are still mainly keeping their content, and they're still publishing. The Belarusian Association of Journalists, coupled with the law enforcement, they consider almost all the journalists political, and we are standing to release them, and we deem these prosecutions are politically motivated and expression of freedom. And the repressions from the authorities we deem to be obstacles for freedom of expression. That's it from me. I will be glad to answer your questions. Thank you. Thank you, Oleg. You said that you were not going to attend the whole conference. You're going to leave. Apologies. So my schedule overlapped, and at 11:30 I've got my next meeting. So if there are any questions, I will be pleased to answer them right now. Apologies before other speakers. If there are any questions, I'm free now and I'm ready to answer. Dear viewers and participants, please write your questions down in the chat column, and I'm giving the floor to our next speaker, Pavel Sverdlov, the editor-in-chief of Euroradio. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Oleg, for this stats. It speaks for itself. It's eloquent. What's more eloquent is when your colleague is being taken away in handcuffs by 2 tough guys. In my opinion, this picture symbolizes all the events in the journalism sector in Belarus. As Natalia mentioned, Euroradio bureau was closed last week. We had worked for 12 years since 2009, and the authorities are taking such rough action. We've experienced a lot, searches, detentions, but our bureau kept working. So the authorities, they let us, allowed us to work, and this right to work is not is banned, and this bureau was the last representation in Belarus of media in the European Union. After we were closed, we only have Xinhua from China and bureaus of Russian media, which is, in my opinion, a quite eloquent picture of what's happening. Journalists in Belarus are artificially divided into two unequal rights. There is the state sector, the media of state representatives of state media. They have all the rights to work, and they attend the court trials without any line. And workers of independent media, they have been pushed out to the curb of their profession, and they are forced to perform their professional duties really kind of from behind the corner from time to time. And as pointed out in the state propaganda Telegram communities, and to record, to publish, and to cover the situation that we are existing right now in such unequal conditions. With regard to the Euroradio Bureau, we're looking for some opportunities to relocate our employees from Minsk to Warsaw, and we have to leave our premises where we have spent the past 3 years. Taking this chance, I would like to make an announcement. We have a cat in our media office, and we picked it up a month ago, and we didn't have a chance to give it to anyone. And it has to leave this cozy office, unfortunately, and it's looking for a new home. If anyone who's staying in Belarus is willing to take it, we would be happy to give it. Unfortunately, what is called the Belarusian regime, it's not only, it doesn't only apply to people unfairly, and we're not surprised anymore, but it also applies to those who cannot take care of themselves. That's our pets. Pavel, thank you. Right now, the floor is given to Nastasya Roda, head of Nasha Niva media publisher. I would like to say it's even tougher. Recent actions of the authorities, they are kind of banning our profession. It's impossible to work as a journalist of an independent media. It's equal to a suicide. You're just going to jail facing criminal charges. What to do in this situation, it's hard to say. Yeah, for us it was crucial to stay with our people, and we've been doing that, but under such conditions, when 4 of our colleagues are behind the bar, it's impossible to continue. We're thinking of continuing our work abroad, which is quite frustrating, because we would like to stay in the country, live in our country, and for us it's a great tragedy that we are forced to think how to leave and not how to come back to our country as soon as possible. And with regard to our colleagues, I would like to point out, yeah, we 3 detentions of editor-in-chief of our media, and we've also received information from Kresny, where our colleagues are being kept right now, that our accountant Olga Rahovich is in unbearable conditions right now. She's very cold. She cannot sleep because of the cold. She has some problems after a surgery, and when she requested doctor's assistance, she was refused. Psychological and physical state of our colleagues is very essential, and we are concerned about it. What's happening to them and what's with them at all, because our legal system forgets about the law, and they forget about the rule of law. And the team is stressing out right now. Part of the people are staying in Belarus. They are not working currently, and some part is abroad. Luckily, when we had searches, some colleagues were abroad, and they could assume some duties. Right now, we are renewing our website. We have all the archives. We saved them. We were ready for this situation, but you may be ready for anything, but it's impossible to be ready for what's going to happen, because anything may come from where you haven't expected, and you have been living in a stressful environment for a year. You know that anything may happen to you. Anything may happen to the media office. Our colleagues, reporters, journalists, photographers, editors are suffering. It can be a criminal or economic charge. Our colleagues are suspects now at part 1 of the article, which is not related to the journalism at all. How those charges are related? Because they called our media office a terrorist group, because journalism is not a criminal action, is not a criminal activity, but in our country it's considered to be a crime. Thank you, Anastasia. Right now, we have some questions to you. We'll listen to all the speakers, and then we'll have a question and answer section. Irina Novik, an editor of the special project of Brodno Internet portal Brodno Live. Please, the floor is given to you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Our local media is the local one. We are covering the city, and we've always consider ourselves people who cover some important points for Brodno and today, and we are deemed to be the most extremist media in the city. Our channel, which is the main flow of information distribution, on the 9th of July, it was called extremist, and we cannot use it anymore. And our subscribers cannot receive any more information, and we're not the only ones who are being pressed down, and our channels are being cut. Speaking about regional press, 10 searches we've undergone throughout the past week. They have deprived Belarus of regional media because everything has been seized and confiscated, and our colleagues, they cannot publish their next newspaper. So this week that started, it's a week without the independent newspapers. Before, my colleagues who publish the printed newspapers, they were refused by publishing houses. The publishing houses, they all said that it wasn't beneficial for them. And all the requests to other institutions that the Ministry of Information doesn't deal with such matters, and these are matters between two entities, and the publishing houses, they didn't justify their refusals. They are unwilling to publish, and people cannot even address some publishing houses abroad. So this is a week without newspapers. We are observing the formation of the information vacuum. With regard to the work of our media office, it's very small. We have within 10 employees, and right now this number is even lower. And two of us are working abroad. Ruslan Kulevich left, was the first one to leave after two administrative charges when his arms were broken. So after that, and I left after the arrest. Some colleagues are staying in the country and they're still working, they're publishing, but they have been unable to leave at home for a week. And Nastasia mentioned, and Pavel as well, everyone is waiting for some knocks on the door. It's unclear if we can still use our phones freely. It's unclear where you're going to stay overnight, if your relatives and family members will see you. So this tough situation remains, and in such conditions, my colleagues are operating right now. It's worth pointing out that the tensions and the pressure on the media, the press, it's not only psychological or virtually speaking. We have a very great, we are experiencing great economic pressure. Our advertisers who have been working with us for many years, they are refusing from contracts, from partnerships, cooperation. They're just afraid, and they say directly, "We'll love you, please bear it, but we are not going to continue working with you because we are scared about our future." And this situation is fully destroying the economical models of the media existence right now, taking into account that on one hand we're losing revenues from ads, and on the other hand we are experiencing dreadful economic fines and pressure. Broaden Life paid 2 fines as a legal entity, and 2 of our colleagues had 2 fines as a physical entity. And we are on the verge of legal existence. We don't have any cats, but we are unable to work in the office because we've had searches and our neighbors had searches. And we always see law enforcement there. Our colleagues cannot live at home because they're afraid about the safety and security of their home and their relatives. And in such conditions, we are working right now. If we have any relocation, or if you're going to move abroad, what Broadno Life is going to look like in a week, in a year, in a month, it's very hard to say. The planning horizon is very limited right now. It's good when we can plan a week ahead, but all these plans can change at any point, even right now, like in a second. Thank you, Irina. Pavel Sverdlov is showing the cat. As far as I understand, that's the cat that lives in the media office. Is the cat gonna speak? Please say meow. Dear colleagues, thank you for your speech, and the floor is given to Alexandra Koshkina, the manager of the Zerkalo.io project run by the TUT.BY team. Hello, dear colleagues. Honestly speaking, I can feel some sort of experience, and without this experience, it would be much better. For the past 2 months, our colleagues have been in detention behind the bars. 12 people are behind the bars, and 3 people are at home under arrest, and the situation hasn't changed. They are staying there, and we are chatting with the institutions and authorities. We are trying to build some sort of line of defense, but non-disclosure contracts of our lawyers. They are impeding, and it's hard to understand what's happening, and everything is corrected every day. A month ago, we thought that we would run the Zerkalo outlet fast, but on the 3rd of July, we received a letter from the Ministry of Internal Affairs that our materials are considered extremist right now. So this situation changed our plans, and we decided, consulting with our lawyers, we decided to split, no matter how hard it is in this situation. The team of 270 people have been destroyed, and we had a choice how to continue, what to do next. We were deprived of our funding because all the accounts have been blocked, and we were not allowed to pay those employees who decided to leave the company. We were allowed to pay 1.5 minimum pays, and we filed a complaint about that. 1 month ago, we had one picture, and after this letter, it changed drastically, and we decided that some part of the media office wants to continue working and publishing on space. Telegram are limiting our capabilities, and we decided to run a project which is Zerkalo.io, organized by TUT.BY. The whole team, which is about comprises 35 people, all of them are abroad, and we have no legal relation to TUT.BY media. It's not because we wanted so, or because our interests split. It's because it's probably our work can harm our colleagues who are staying in Belarus and those who are in jail right now. So we decided so. All the others who are staying, they are currently looking for a job, or they have found a job. Frankly speaking, it's hard to imagine where to look for a job for independent journalists in Belarus right now, considering what we see is happening every day. And we are thinking about how to make news, how to deliver these news to our audience virtually. Everyone is working with using VPN, and it limits the traffic significantly. And we show how to use VPN, how to avoid blockages and read news, not to be in this information vacuum, to read our news on Telegram and on other social media. And this is the way for many media outlets who will decide to stay and continue performing their duties. There are many obstacles with regard to how we receive information. We are the only to keep a secret who's within the team, and like for example, you're not supposed to see me on the screen right now, and basically that's what is happening. The team is represented by someone who is not supposed to do so. But I hope the situation when on the 8th of July in the media office of our colleagues, there were searches and detentions, and Zerkalo.io was launched. It could support this somehow, that it's impossible to shut us down, and that silence is sort of poison, and we'll keep working. We'll keep covering the events taking place in Belarus. That's it from me. If there are any questions, I will be pleased to answer. Thank you, Alexandra. We have some questions, and we'll give the floor to our speaker, Paul Burkowski. Paul, please, is the media expert and expert of the Media IQ project, and after his speech, we'll have a question and answer session. Pavel, the floor is given to you. Good afternoon, colleagues. Indeed, almost everything has been said. I can just add that I will agree that all the media that provided access to alternative media sources, they are experiencing a strike, and it's very thoroughly planned. And it's worth pointing out that the media business is being smashed right now, and they are pressing out of the country, and it will be easier to mark that they are not Belarusian independent media and some unknown sources. And another way is that there is a problem to access information, which is quite significant. We didn't have much experience of working that were partially considered extremist, like it happened to the Telegram channel Broadnow Live. We can only guess or assume how the situation is going to develop. We have examples of full channels being considered extremist. I don't think it should relax us somehow. But obviously that the goal of normalization of situation, as the Belarusian authorities see it, it lies in no voices covering what's happening in the country, and these voices should have disappeared under some or after some sort of very important event. And this is deepening of integration, change of constitution, or we don't know what to expect. Thank you. Thank you, Pavel. And right now we are moving on to the question and answer session. And the first question is a general one. Dear colleagues, maybe someone will be ready to answer it. Why are all the searches and why did all the searches and detentions take place at the same time on the 8th and on the 9th of July? Why was that? Who could answer this question? I can try to answer if you don't mind. Yeah, please. Like the theory of military analyst, or that it was a decree, an order of Alexander Lukashenko. Lukashenko is signing orders, and some of them are not publicly available, and that order KGB representative referred to when he explained the actions of the authorities and other and all the information and content has been cleared about that, and that's why I consider that there was an order. We don't know the content of this order. Maybe it was formulated generally. Take countermeasures, press the media down, press everyone down who's related to the West. Maybe this order is read so, and accordingly the authorities, they carried out this order the way they interpreted and the way they saw the situation, and they keep doing so based on the searches in Homeland Breath. But this is just my assumption and my version. It's hard to look for some logic or sense in the actions of Belarusian authorities or in law enforcement, and that's why I'm not claiming for truth. Thank you, Pavel. Pavel Bukovsky has a comment as well. I don't object and that there was an order. Maybe it was a turn, because it wasn't the first wave of persecution of media, and maybe in May last year, before the serious campaign. Many video bloggers were detained. After that, we witnessed the deprivation of accreditation of international journalists working in Belarus. Then we saw a case of TUT.BY, and we saw some searches. They have some sort of scheme, primary measures, secondary measures, and this is sort of a bureaucratic decision. It's quite possible that there are some requirements to handle the radical that launched the searches on the 8th and on the 9th, but they are still continuing today. Thank you, Pavel. We have a question to clarify. Pavel said that in Belarus there remained only Chinese and Russian media. What about Reuters, Bloomberg, or BBC? How are they working in Belarus right now? I don't know exactly how the media mentioned about are working, but there is a mechanism of accreditation of journalists in Belarus. A bureau or an independent journalist can be accredited. Some Western media have accredited journalists, maybe correspondents of the Moscow bureaus, maybe some people come officially to work in Belarus. That's how they work. We have, how to say, there are pitfalls. On the 2nd of October, as far as I remember, all foreign journalists were deprived of accreditation. So the ministry explained it as a technical matter. They changed some accreditation requirements, and they are gonna re-accredit foreign journalists based on new requirements. But since then, in the ministry, there are some applications of Euroradio correspondence, and we still haven't received responses. The ministry, they favor citizens of those countries they represent. They mentioned that openly, as at the Euroradio we've always had the citizens of Belarus, and this media is technically Polish, but we've always been considered a Belarusian media. Accordingly, based on this principle to accredit only foreigners, none of our applications have been accepted. There is one more question to you. What is the deadline for Euroradio to close your bureau and leave the premises? Our bureau has already been closed. It happened when the decree was published on the 6th of July, and it became effective right after it was signed, and the representation we have in a blink, we can't just close it in the blink of an eye. This is a process. It's a totally formal and administrative technical process. It's still continuing, and only because of that, we cannot just say that Euroradio has left Belarus finally or eventually, and we still have representatives staying here. But when all these legal formalities end, it will happen soon. Everything that will be it for us. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. We hope it doesn't happen. It will happen because the process has already kicked off. Maybe, I hope, sometime we'll receive this accreditation again and work again. That's why we are experiencing and facing those changes, and they are supposed to happen. Thank you, Pavel, for your comment. And right now, there is a question from the chat to the head of Nasha Niva media. Anastasia, you've already answered partially, but I'll repeat. Maybe you can comment something more in depth. Is the media office planning to relocate employees? Yeah, I'll tell you more in depth. I think that our current situation, people should have a choice, because all the conditions that we offered before are becoming irrelevant. And when you are ready to work abroad, and of course, you're not going to leave for 1 or 2 days. You're going to leave the country for a long time, and you're changing your life. And not everyone is willing to do so. No one wanted to do so. We all wanted to stay in Belarus. That's why right now we are not only facing this choice, but it's the point of changing your whole life. That's why I think it's right to give our employees some time to reconsider how they want to live, what they want to do, because it's clear that being a journalist right now is just like being a soldier in some sense. You're taking some certain risks, you're limiting yourself, and living abroad, you never know when you're gonna return. That's why we're still considering inside of Belarus. We stopped our work for security measures, and the people are thinking and making decisions. And our task is just to provide all the conditions for our media office to be revived in some new format, but not in Belarus. Thank you. Anastasia. Next question is general. How are the media outlets that are not covering political events working in Belarus, the representative of that searches they took place in the media offices of Online.BY and Virtual Brest? How should they face the clearances? What do the experts think? Pavel Bukovsky, please. We cannot answer this question. If there were some searches related to the direct work of the media outlet, like Online or the specific journalist, which is possible. That's why I don't have a clear answer in relation to media outlets that are less involved in the political coverage. But there are some general rules. The first rule relates to the difference between Minsk and the regions. In Minsk has always been freer, and another point is it's almost always been the case that this unclear situation, people want to show that their work, law enforcement want to show that their work is essential, and that's why they it's quite possible for them to make up some sorts of offenses or charges for some journalists. But overall, if you take a look at the whole picture, the commercial media outlets that are not covering the political situation, or maybe not covering or to a smaller extent, and they are providing the authorities with many opportunities. They are still in limbo, and they still haven't, no one has still visited them. And we've had a very long story about the surprise in Brest Oblast when we had printed newspapers, when all the independent printed newspapers were closing. Now Brest is not an exclusion, but I'm talking about a combination of factors, and in some cases there could be some sort of base for some independent media to remain and keep working. Colleagues, are there any more comments or related to this question? Next, if independent media outlets relocate, will they keep the network of their correspondents, and what will they face technically? Will they need to keep their personalities a low profile, and will they use the materials of the bloggers? I can answer. The point is that to work inside of Belarus is not safe. Why? Because when you call someone, you introduce yourself. You cannot just say, "I'm a journalist of some unknown media." That's just talk, and then you'll see yourself. When you call someone, you introduce yourself, who you are and where you're from. And that means that you disclose yourself in your media right away, and that you're inside of Belarus, that any hero, when an officer visits them, the person will give away who they spoke to, because and they are going to visit the journalists because they're not accredited or they are considered to be extremists. That's why it's impossible to keep working in Belarus. It's not very anonymous. You cannot be fully anonymous that users cannot see or find. If you work as a journalist, be ready to have some visits. External visits. Thank you, Nastasia. Pavel, you turned your mic on. Did you want to mention anything? Yeah, there is a difference if someone works for a foreign media outlet, so they may face some charges if the person works for a Belarusian media, but as we can see from experience, both administrative and criminal charges are just daily matters for authorities. They they're using this mechanism. And of course, journalists, if they publish publicly, they will face those charges. There are no illusions. And the main thing that they will come across is that will a journalist come back from somewhere? It's just like a return from a dinosaur. Will they come back? No one knows, and no one knows what conditions they're going to work in. And those conditions for those who are staying in Belarus right now. Thank you, Pavel. And Pavel Bykovsky. I saw your microphone turned on. Apart from what my colleagues said, I would like to mention lowering of journalism standards related to information sources. It will be impossible to double-check the information. It will be, and for example, for those who work in the format of Radio Radia, it will be hard to receive information, and they will take it only from the state media, and those they are controlled in terms of covering. It will be impossible to introduce yourself. I remember the period when people try to misintroduce themselves, and it undermines the trust to journalists. And we will experience that again, because we'll have some sort of formula, and the media offices will not recommend to introduce as someone else, but we'll definitely have such cases. And it's in 2020, the media offices, we have people organizing some sort of check information, to process it. It's a separate profession. And the Belarusian journalists will teach and train international journalists, because we've done a lot in a short period. And I haven't seen any examples of that. Thank you, Pavel. There is another question. It's more general because we're running out of time. What do you think? It's a question to everyone. What is the possibility for authorities to block messengers and social networks in Belarus? And how are you as media outlets are planning to keep? If it could happen, it would have happened. There were some attempts to do so, but they failed, and we'll hope that, taking into account recent sanctions, they will have no technical capability to do so. I can add, yes, please. Our Telegram channel was considered to be an extremist one, and we are not publishing on it. Our last message was that we had created a new channel, and we invited all of our subscribers to move there. Of course, during the first several days we had some decrease, and right now this number is increasing, and we'll hope for 1/4 of the subscribers to come back. We'll have to make and recreate our channels, because I think it's impossible to block all these social networks, and in Belarus it's just added some sort of work for us. Thank you, Irina, for your comment. There is another general question. Is there an understanding of the audience of normal people about what's happening in the Belarusian media? Are you seeing support from them, and what do you think they guess about the situation in the country? I could say, as we've been watching that for 2 months, how we are being supported, and we still have that support. If you talk about the TUT.BY readers, so based on the views on Circle.IU, the significant amount followed new media from the previous media offices of TUT.BY. It means that the audience understands what's happening, and they have to change their normal behavior, move somewhere and follow us at different links. And as we are in an uncomfortable condition right now, and we have to build a new relationship, and we can see that bigger part of our audience, they have stayed with us, and TUT.BY has always shown the situation as it is. And I cannot say that we have one target audience, and we hope to keep the whole audience, that those people who are just interested in the news and the new facts, they can learn them on our channels, and some sort of informed that it will remain, because the process to access independent media is a bit restricted right now. Even all elder senior citizens, after blocking of many media outlets, if the older people don't have VPN, it means that they still don't have it, and they will have to address their relatives and family members to change that, because we could see that TUT.BY covered over 3 million viewers on a weekday, and we had over 600,000 subscribers on Telegram. So, as you understand, it's a big difference between a normal version and a smartphone version. And for this Zerkala, we also need to build a new format and find a new audience. That's what's gonna happen with many media outlets. That some part of audience will, if there are no other ways to find sources of information. Thank you, Alexander. Colleagues, would anyone else like to add anything? If not, there is another question from the chat. Is there a point to interact with the journalists from state media, and is anyone still in touch with them? I can answer, or please go ahead. These days, I have been told a story that one of the journalists was afraid of being battered in the street. In my opinion, there were no triggers for this. They are experiencing sort of a trauma, but a different one. They have understood that few people will thank them for their job. Recently, for a very long time, not on Facebook and on other social networks, nor in the street, I haven't met any colleagues from the state media, even though I have a lot of them after the journalism department and faculty. So of course I have acquaintances. So this is a situation of sort of two camps who have stopped interacting with each other. And I can ask a question myself: what can we talk about with them? Those state journalists who thought it was essential to leave, they had left, and those who decided to stay, they stayed. So everyone made their choice, and it relates to independent media. Those who thought that the consequences of their work could be very dramatic, they left. I don't know such people, but I'm pretty sure there are such people, and all the rest are making a hard decision to stay or leave. Every sector, they have their life. What we come across when the propagandists, they use our posts from social networks and comment on them somehow. We pay attention to some comments and spread and smash their propaganda. That's the only interaction option. Thank you, Pavel. Irina Novik, did you want to add anything? Pavel made a good point. What's the point of talking to them? We don't have the points of interest and technical capabilities to meet with the state media journalists. Before, we could meet at some conferences or events for journalists. Right now, we don't have such opportunities. And these are two different worlds that do not come across. Pavel made a great point. I would like to add one important thing. We used to have a press club where we could meet with some state journalists, and we met there. It was an offline. I meant our press club as an organization, not as an assembly of journalists. And this networking dropped, and it dropped in autumn And we receive such signals from the government that this networking is unnecessary. I understand that because, of course, when they communicate, they may re-convince each other about or change the points of view. It's interesting for me what state and independent journalists can reconvince each other about. Maybe it's bad that we don't have such meetings anymore, that we stopped interacting and influencing each other, but that's the case right now. Can I add a few more points? The point is that we are being viewed, many of us, that how the state media view us. For example, our Broadno Live media outlet, internet outlet, which is not registered in the Ministry of Information. And many online media outlets have the same status. According to the legislature, we as citizens of the Belarus Republic, we have the right to collect, process, and publish information. We are responsible for this information being true. We have the right to collect information as citizens. We are formally not journalists. And before it was taken into account, we were invited to press conferences. State officials responded to us. We could interview them without any problems. Right now, after August, and right now, we are called individuals calling themselves journalists. So we are so individuals calling themselves journalists. It sounds like sort of extremist groups or cells, and colleagues who I met in town recently. They try even not to make an eye contact, not to interact with those individuals. Thank you. Dear colleagues, unfortunately, we ran out of time. That's why I have a very general final question. What can independent media do together in this situation? What can be your survival plan? Alexandra, please. I will probably say about a universal plan. It's to make a decision if they are ready to keep working in such conditions based on what our colleagues mentioned. Everyone is planning to continue working, and we still have some options. They are hard. Maybe the situation is not as comfortable as it was before. If you talk about relocation, it's the case of different legislature, unusual format of cooperating with advertisers. It doesn't let you make revenues officially. Of course, we'll have to face new challenges. But to keep working for Belarus in this information space, it's necessary, and I think that's the case, and to do our best not to face the information block, and to hear the surnames of our colleagues in the news. Maybe we'll have to have some online meetings or workshops to share experiences and options or solutions that we have found towards those tasks that we need to solve, and maybe we'll find solutions better together. Pavel, Nastasia, I saw you turn your mics on. I'll add a few words. I like the point of our analyst Sergei Chalov. that everyone will, within their self-preservation instincts, some people will stay, some people will leave, some people take risks, some don't. It's clear that everything is natural and usual, and all the decisions that have led to some positive situations are right. And to preserve yourself, don't stop doing what you have been doing. Journalism, in the past year, everyone has understood that it's a mission. It's not just another job. That's why currently we serve the people, and we don't have the moral right to give up. Thank you, Pavel. Nastasia, will you add anything? Yes, sure. Of course, I can say that to destroy what has been created throughout years, our Niva will keep working, operating. We'll just regroup ourselves and keep operating. Belarusian journalists can give lessons to survival lessons to journalists across the globe, because what happened to us is just hell, and we are preserving our energy and ourselves and trying to do something. It's an address to the readers that we will bear everything with your support and your help, and it's always been with us, and we hope to have it in the future. We'll cope with everything. Nastasia, thank you. Irina, please. I would like to say some personal things. We discussed security matters with our colleagues, and during one of the discussions, I said, dear colleagues, I was clearing information from my computer, and I understood that I didn't even have a folder called personal with some cats or some poems. I just don't have it. And I can see that our colleagues, they understood what I mean. Right now, we are living that the deprivation of the job is the deprivation of your personality, your identity. I don't consider myself far from the media. From all of my relatives have been involved in it. My husband helped me. My daughter was supposed to leave because she was being prosecuted, and I understand it was some tool of pressure on me. Without media, I don't associate myself without media, and many of my colleagues as well. For us, it's the matter not only of preservation of media, it's a preservation of ourselves, our jobs, our values, our senses, and etc. So we are not even considering other options. Thank you very much, Irina. Dear speakers, if anyone else wants to add anything, maybe you have some comments, or if not, we will finish our press conference. I thank everyone, all the speakers who was able to join us and share their experiences with us. Unfortunately, it's not very positive, but nevertheless, thanks to everyone. Thank you to our listeners, international journalists. Apologies for not mentioning everyone because we're running out of time here, but we are in touch. The press club, even though it doesn't exist offline, but we still keep working online, and we don't lose hope that our truth will prevail, and we will have an opportunity to work in Belarus. Thank you to everyone, and we'll be in touch. Goodbye.